Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Thomas K.R. Stovall. Welcome to Amplify Daily number 28. And today we're going to get into key number 5 on my list of 5 keys for effective attraction-based marketing sales. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Again, this is Amplify Daily number 28. Key number 5. Storytelling is greater than facts, period, point blank. If y'all don't know this, it is really important that somebody tell you that if you're in the world of marketing and sales, you're in the world of storytelling. You're in the world of storytelling no matter what you may think. If you don't develop your muscle of telling stories, the person who can tell a story is going to beat you out every time. And this is coming from somebody who I don't consider myself a great storyteller at all, like at all. But I have learned the principles of how to tell stories, and I use stories all the time now. And it used to be really, really uncomfortable for me because again, I didn't think of myself as a storyteller. Somebody like my dad is a natural born storyteller. You know, he tells stories all the time. He has people on the edge of their seats leaning in. And actually, I'm gonna tell y'all a story that kind of frames this out when I think about my dad as like the consummate storyteller versus me, who very left brain. I'm a person who's very left brain and right brain, kind of all at the same time. And as I've done more research, I found out over time that that's a little bit more rare. Somebody who's like extremely detail oriented, extremely rigorous engineering mindset, while at the same time extremely creative. I live in story, but I didn't tell good stories, and I want to give y'all one. So I had to be like fifth or sixth grade, something like that. My parents love to entertain. I'm on the stairs, and I don't know if you can relate to this. Like when you were a kid, you're not supposed to be up, and maybe your parents are up, they're hosting an event or something, and then you're on the stairs and you're peeking in, you're peeking down, you don't want to get caught. That's how it was for me. I'm on the stairs, and my parents probably have 10, 12 people over the house. They love to entertain, and there's all this commotion coming from the kitchen, and I'm on the banister, and I peek around the corner to see what's going on. And in the kitchen, I see my dad. My dad is holding court. He's his arms are out wide. He's telling a story, and I kid y'all not, in my mind, this lives like kind of like a Hollywood scene where everything is in slow motion. I see my dad telling this story. His arms are moving. It feels like it's slow motion. Everybody's like on the edge of their seat. They're leaned in. There's laughter. And it just felt like this epic thing. And I thought to myself, man, I wish I could be like that. And in the next moment, I thought, okay, I guess I'll go out. I'll have to learn how to be like that. And from that point forward, I started reading personal development books. I found the power of positive thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. Sitting around the house somewhere, I found how to win friends and influence people. And from that point forward, I became somebody who was focused on personal development, someone who learned how to get comfortable with people, someone who learned how to connect with other people, but it didn't come naturally for me. I was a little nerdy dude. I was very cerebral, still am. And when people meet me out now, they think that I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I'm actually much more comfortable being behind a computer screen, sitting, strategizing, thinking by myself. But I've practiced for so long being around people and turning it on when I'm in a room that when I walk in a room now, it naturally turns on. When I walk in a room now, I'm naturally smiling and confident. I know how to rub shoulders. I know how to connect to other people. Hey, such and such. Did you meet him? Great. Yeah, I just want to make sure y'all connect. Like it comes naturally now. But at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. So storytelling, connection is not my first language, not by a long shot, not by a long shot. But I'm going to tell y'all three keys today for becoming a great storyteller. And if you're paying attention, go back and listen to the story that I told you about my dad, and you might just notice each one of those keys. Okay? So let's start with key number one. Key number one in storytelling is greater than facts. Start in the middle of the story. Start in the middle of the story. So don't give all the background information. Don't give all the details. Start right in the middle of the story. Why? Because when you start in the middle of a story, people are sitting there and they're kind of like, wait, what's going on? Wait, who are the characters? Like your mind is trying to figure out what's happening. And so naturally, you're leaning in, you're trying to catch the details because you got to catch up. You got to figure out what's going on. What did you miss? Because like I feel like I don't have all the details. So you keep people kind of on the edge of their seat when you start in the middle of the story. Okay, so that's number one. And I'm going to give y'all an example, another example. I'm going to tell a little story that's got some of these details in it. All right, number two, tell the story in present tense. Tell the story in present tense. It is very different when you describe something versus you tell the story in present tense. And again, I'm gonna give you an example in a minute. And the third step to telling a vivid story. And again, this is y'all, this is like an engineer's brain on storytelling. This is for the person who it does not come natural. Some of y'all are great storytellers, and you'll look at this and you'll be like, oh, that's actually how I talk, right? It's natural for you. For an engineer like me, was not natural. I had to learn how to storytell. And this is like your hack for those of y'all who are more left brain. This will give you the hack to being a really good storyteller, even if you're not a great storyteller naturally. Describe the details, the little vivid details, the little stuff that seemingly doesn't matter. But when you add those little vivid details to a story, it has someone be able to kind of picture the scene in their mind's eye a little more clear. And when you can do that, that's one of those things that actually creates a really compelling, vivid story. All right, so I'm gonna tell a story about a really regular scene. And first I'm gonna tell it without starting in the middle of the story. I'm going to tell it without speaking in present tense, and I'm going to tell it without describing any details. All right, so let's talk about a guy who's in his office and someone walks in. All right, let's call this guy. His name is Ed. I will talk about Ed. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ed. So every day, Ed went to his office. And at the end of the day, Ed would be sitting in his office and just kind of surfing the internet, you know. Um, Ed would be Ed would be waiting for the end of the day to come because he'd be looking forward to going home and kind of hanging out, having some extra time. And one day, around the end of the day, somebody came into Ed's office and the guy was asking Ed about a project that they were supposed to be working on together. And the guy was actually a colleague of Ed's, and they had worked together for a long time. But Ed didn't particularly know this guy all that well. Okay, so that's enough, right? So in that story, there wasn't much deep, like vivid detail. In that story, there was a lot of backstory about Ed and what he normally does, and how he waits for the end of the day and blah blah blah. And we didn't tell the story in present tense. We talked about what Ed usually did. We talked about how it usually goes. So, but there wasn't a present tense. We were like describing something. So let's tell the same story. Ed's in his office, the same. He's end of the day, all that stuff. We're gonna avoid doing a bunch of describing, and we're gonna tell this story in present tense. And you tell me if you notice a difference in how interesting the story is. All right. All right. It's 4:47 p.m. Ed's sitting at his desk, and in walks Tom. Now, Tom's about 6'3", debonair guy, black, shiny hair, always suited and booted. $2,000 suit, it's blue, shining, red tie. And Tom walks in right before the end of the day, sits down, puts his feet up on Ed's desk. And Tom and Ed, they're talking. And Ed's like, man, Tom, it's the end of the day. I'm ready to get to the house. And Tom's like, Ed, you're not going anywhere, buddy. All right. So that story, what happened? What did I do in that story? That story was significantly shorter, right? There's no backstory. Did I tell y'all that Ed normally is ready to go at 5 p.m. and he's waiting for the end of the day? Did I tell you? Like, I didn't give y'all any of that. Who cares? Who cares about any of that? Where do we start? We started with Ed sitting at his desk. It's 4:47 p.m. So, we're who's Ed? And like what desk, what office, what are we talking about? I don't have any context at all, except for Ed's at his desk. And we jump right to Tom walks in and Tom is debonair. Tom's wearing a $2,000 suit. So we're giving you these vivid details. And Tom has got slick black hair. He's about 6 feet tall and blue suit. It's shiny, black shoes. Tom walks in. He sits down at Ed's desk, puts his feet up on Ed's desk. What in the world? So again, we got a feel for Tom already. So Tom's like this kind of slick talker. He walks in, he puts his feet up on Ed's desk. Really? And Ed's like, Tom, what are you doing here? And then Tom says, Ed, you're not going in. I mean, yeah, Ed, you're not going anywhere. We got to talk. So, like, there's a scene, there's something going on here. There's some tension. But notice, as I was talking about it too, what did I do? I was talking in present tense. I wasn't talking about how Ed usually was ready to go home. I didn't talk about how Tom walked into the office. I said, Ed sitting at his desk. Tom walks into the office. Tom says, Ed, you're not going anywhere. Everything is present tense. When you describe something like Tom walked in, Ed was waiting, that's describing something. You're using your mind's eye to go backwards and you're outside of the picture. It's not as interesting when you're describing something. But when you speak in present tense, Tom walks in. He puts his feet on Ed's desk. Ed's at his desk. It's 4:47 p.m. All that is present tense. The listener can transport themselves into the story and be in it in present tense and present moment. So it makes a huge difference for somebody to feel like part of the story when they hear it in present tense. You've heard these things a million times. You probably just didn't have the specific principles to be able to break apart. Oh, this is why I feel more engaged in this story. He's speaking or she's speaking in present tense. Got it. Oh, this is why I feel like I can see the picture better. Tom's wearing a $2,000 suit. Tom's red tie is red. Tom has black hair. Tom's about 6 feet tall. Strides in, puts his feet up on the desk. Present tense plus vivid detail. Did it matter that Tom's suit was blue? Did it matter that he had on a bright red tie? Did it matter that his hair was black and slicked back? Did it matter that had on black shoes? Did it matter? Did it matter? Did it matter? None of these things make any particular difference. But when you give that vivid detail, I'm now starting to, unbeknownst to me, see a room kind of magically appear in front of me. I'm getting a feel for what Tom looks like, what his personality is like. You know, he may be maybe a little bit brash, kind of a slick talker. All of this begins to come to the forefront with the vivid details that don't really have anything to do with the scene, but they start to paint a picture in the listener's mind's eye. And starting in the middle of the story, we don't give all the backstory about how normally goes for Ed and what he's usually doing. We start right in the middle. It's 4:47 p.m. Ed's sitting at his desk, counting down the minutes until 5 p.m. Tom walks in. So these are the details, y'all. Start in the middle of the story, tell the story in present tense, and describe the details. Those are the three keys. Remember those offhand. Those are the three keys to telling a really compelling story. And do not get it twisted. Whether you are out to raise capital, whether you're out to make a sale, whether you're out in your personal life looking to make friends, people who tell stories are going to skew higher on being able to have people get to know them, get to trust them, get to like them. Our brains are wired for story. It's how we've passed down information for millennia. The human mind, when you get ready to tell somebody a story, something primal clicks off and clicks on that says, "Oh, story time. Let me let me pull up a seat. It's going to be interesting." Use story whenever possible in your marketing and sales, and you'll notice immediately an uptick in how people engage with you. And secondarily, when you tell vivid stories, people will stay tuned much longer and get tuned in much faster. All right, y'all. I really hope that was helpful for you today. Let me see if I can stop my screen share. Yeah, I really hope that was helpful for y'all today. And thinking of how you're going to be able to use stories effectively in your marketing sales, especially in your attraction-based marketing sales focus. Y'all have a great day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow for Amplify Daily number 29.